All right, so hello, my name is Brad. This is my video blog for IOR 190. So I'm going to be talking about Efrat's lecture that she gave in class. So just a brief background on Efrat. She is the founder and the president of Foresight Valuation Group. It is a Silicon Valley-based intellectual property startup firm, and she's also a lecturer a lecturer on IP strategy at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford University. So her lecture can really be broken down into three main parts: the IP marketplace in summary, IP strategy for growth, and then she looks at some case studies of when IP was not used well and how that led to profit erosion or a loss of market share for a company. So first, some brief stats on the marketplace of IP and how that's rapidly changing. So in 1975, the components of the S&P 500 were 83% tangible assets, but today the components are 80% intangible assets. So there's been a rapid shift from 83% tangible assets to 80% intangible assets over the past 30 years or so. So I did some research as to why over the past 30 years, why is this all of a sudden happening? And one thing I found was that I found an article online on TechCrunch. It's called "The Battle is for the Customer Interface." So basically, this talked about how ever since the Industrial Revolution, humans have created very intricate supply chains, which have allowed billions of physical products to be shipped worldwide. But over the past 30 years or so, which is what Efrat's graph shows, there has been a rapid shift due to the evolution of the internet and the mobile phone, which and this is a quote from the article, but basically we are in an age now where the customer interface is everything. So I thought this was one really interesting kind of big takeaway or something to leave with. Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's most popular media owner, creates no content. Alibaba, the most valuable retailer, has no inventory. And Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, owns no real estate. Something interesting is happening. So clearly, as evidenced by these huge companies here like Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, we are moving away from physical products into intangible assets. And it's crucial that patents be used to protect these. So kind of a brief recap of the types of IP: copyright, trademark, trade secrets, but I want to harp on the patents. So they are an exclusionary right, meaning they prevent others from using or commercially benefiting from your product. Obviously, they must be novel, useful, non-obviousness in order to be. Those are the criteria. They have to have some sort of utility and so forth, and they last for about 20 years. So one act which recently changed the patent landscape was called the AIA. So this moved the patent law system from a first-to-invent standard to a first-to-file standard. So after the AIA, if two inventors are filing for a similar patent, if it is granted, it will be granted to the first to file, not the first to actually invent. So that's a really important distinction to note. And also I want to point out that IP, kind of moving into next. So IP strategy for growth. Obviously, NPEs and trolls have been a huge burden on U.S. businesses, and I read a stat somewhere. They costed the U.S. economy an estimated $1 trillion, all in all. So they have been a huge nuisance, and they tend to target startups. So a company with less than $100 million in revenue, or companies with less than $100 million in revenue, represent at least 66% of patent troll defendants. So that's a big quote there. But in terms of Efrat's lecture, she then moved into IP strategy for growth. So here I think the important takeaways is why focus so many resources as a company on obtaining patents and for patent protection. And she noted that there were a lot of benefits that come along with this. So a few of them are because patents provide the freedom to operate, they block competitors. So again, as I said earlier, they're an exclusionary right. They support future products, but they also hedge against litigation, which is extremely important. So that was kind of one big takeaway there. But in terms of just a quick kind of caveat, if you will, as I said earlier in my last blog, it isn't always important for a company to patent every single invention. Oftentimes, the time, the money, and the resources needed to obtain a patent outweigh the actual product. So for instance, in a rapidly moving tech industry where something is in and out, it can take you up to 3 years to actually from the time you file a patent, it can take you up to 3 years for that patent to be granted. So in that case, it may not be viable to actually apply all the money and the human resources to file for that patent, because by the time it's granted, that technology may be outdated. So I just want to note here that, and this is what Efrat noted too, but it is important to obtain patents, but you have to be strategic when you think about what you want your IP portfolio to look like, and not just patent everything. So a quick IP case study. So this is a case study of Kodak, of how when they did not use patent protection or did not do their due diligence, and as a result they lost a ton of profit. So Kodak launched Project 130 to develop instant cameras and film, which went after Polaroids, which was a company then, which went after one of their patented inventions. So, but they created this project without looking at the prior art and without looking at other patents out there. But it turned out that Polaroid had 12 patents on a similar product, and Kodak's invention turned out to have infringed on 7 of the 12 patents that Polaroid had. So as a result, they went to court, and Kodak was asked to pay out $925 million in damages, and it costed them all in all about $3 billion. So this is kind of a great example of how not looking at prior art, not having a strategy for IP can really hurt you. So what do I think in the end? I think that you have to have a conscientious approach to your IP strategy, but you also have recognizing that the products you build, those are equally as important as the IP behind them, because without that IP, that product would really be nothing in a lot of cases. So I also think it's important to note that patent is only as good as what people are willing to pay for your product. So in other words, if your product has no demand, then that patent really doesn't mean anything. It just excludes others from using it, but no one's using it. So it's important to patent developments that are widely used, but also patent a development that may exclude a competitor from using something similar. So I think those are just some really quick takeaways, and I want to end there. So thank you for watching, and go Bears.